And now, Eyewitness News NightBEAT.
Good evening, and we begin with late information in the cross-country manhunt for suspected serial killer Andrew Cunanan, and it is happening right here in New England. Donna is following the story from the Eyewitness News Satellite Center. Donna?
Well, Al, we're talking about a possible sighting of VERSACE's suspected serial killer, Andrew Cunanan, right here in New England. And right now, police in New Hampshire are on alert. Now, in the town of Lebanon, they searched in vain for more than 2 hours after a clerk in a sports memorabilia store reported seeing a man fitting Cunanan's description. This video of the search coming down just a little while ago. Now, the man's front pockets were reportedly stuffed with cash, and he left in a dark gray Mercedes with Florida license plates. Neither the car nor the man was ever found. Now, police in Miami thought they had their man today. A crew from the CBS station down there just happened to be out on a story when they saw a man walking down the street. They felt it was a dead ringer for Cunanan. The news crew tipped police, who started following the man, and they agreed he looked like Cunanan, and they took him into the station for questioning. Eventually, he proved to be somebody else, however, so they let him go. And the FBI is now acknowledging they've had Cunanan within reach, but blew a number of chances to catch him before the VERSACE murder. Some clues: he frequented the club scene, even visiting a night spot across from police headquarters. Also, he left a stolen pickup truck in a parking garage for a month and pawned a stolen coin, leaving his real name, hotel room, and even a thumbprint. Be sure to stay with Eyewitness News for continuing coverage in the cross-country manhunt for suspected serial killer Andrew Cunanan.
Okay, Donna, we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Also today in Italy, some of murdered fashion designer Gianni Versace's greatest and most famous admirers gathered to remember him. Take a listen. His back's to us, but that is Elton John, and next to him is Sting. They're performing a mournful rendition of the 23rd Psalm, "The Lord is my shepherd." The celebrity-filled memorial service at Milan's Gothic Cathedral was also attended by Princess Diana and more than 2,000 other people. A 73-year-old Guilford man tonight is engaged in a fight with the federal government, which accuses him of having been a Nazi prison camp guard and wants to revoke his citizenship and deport him. Tonight, much of the community is talking about this one. NightBEAT reporter Jennifer Watson is now live at FBI headquarters in New Haven with the very latest. Jennifer?
Al, 48 years ago, Walter Berezowski came here to the United States to live. He was only 25 years old at the time, but the Justice Department says Berezowski lied about what he did back in Germany, lied about who he was.
They are a very close-knit family. There's their yard, and both yards are always full of family all the time. You know, regular, even on weekends, it's picnics and parties.
Iona Gervasi has lived next door to 73-year-old Walter Berezowski for 25 years. She says he and his wife and their 5 children seem like a normal, hard-working family. But Berezowski stands accused of being a Nazi war criminal.
The issue here is not just whether he was a Nazi war criminal, but whether or not he lied on his application to become a citizen.
Rob Lyken, Connecticut's director of the Anti-Defamation League, says the complaint by the Justice Department against Berezowski spells it all out. The complaint claims Berezowski lied when he came to the U.S. in 1949, saying he was a farmer during World War II. The Justice Department claims Berezowski was actually a guard at slave labor camps, that he guarded prisoners, forced them to work, and prevented them from escaping. These guards also had orders to shoot to kill any prisoner who attempted to escape.
If, as alleged, people in his position not only had the power, but used it to commit murder.
Rabbi Herb Brockman says 55 years after the fact, this is not an act of vengeance against an old man.
People who recognize our humanity have to say that this is simply not acceptable, and that if you commit these crimes, these horrendous crimes, that sometime you will be held accountable for them. Not in terms of vengeance, but in terms of justice. That's what this is. It's an act of justice, not a vengeance.
Walter Berezowski will have his day in court. What will be decided is whether or not he is indeed the man he's accused of being.
If this individual turns out to be the man that the Justice Department believes that he is, that he should absolutely be expelled from this country and suffer the consequences of what he did.
The Justice Department will try to revoke Berezowski's citizenship and deport him. Now, sources who were at Berezowski's house earlier today talked to him and said he flatly denies the accusations that he was a Nazi war criminal. He maintains he was only a farmer during World War II. Now, this case could take a while. They have taken months, even years. Al, back to you.
Jennifer Watson on the Night Beat in New Haven tonight.
24 arsons in less than 6 months at a Rocky Hill apartment complex leaves many, including the lieutenant governor, wondering if there's a serial arsonist on the loose. The most recent came yesterday at the Century Hills apartment in Rocky Hill and was started in an elevator shaft. The governor's office announced today it's forming a strike force to track down the arsonist.
It's my home. It's my home. And I just like to see it stopped.
3 apartments were damaged in yesterday's fire.
An 11-year-old newspaper delivery boy, Christian Diaz, is hospitalized in stable condition tonight after being hit by a car in New Britain. Police say it happened when the car was backing out of a parking lot on Grove Street near Lafayette. No charges have been filed in the case. It's still under investigation.
A 2-car accident in West Hartford this afternoon sends 3 people to the hospital. It happened at South Main and Sedgwick. 34-year-old Rabina Ahmed and 2 children in a Plymouth van were treated and released from Hartford Hospital. 2 people in the other car, a Volvo, were not hurt. The accident is under investigation.
Connecticut has a new state treasurer tonight. This after Christopher Burnham stepped down today to take a high-paying private sector job while calling his critics hypocrites and political hacks. He's been the focus of an ethics controversy since last month when he announced his resignation and his plans to join an investment firm that once did business with his office. Deputy Treasurer Paul Sylvester will fill the remainder of Burnham's term. Vice President Al Gore in Boston today announces new federal aid for 3 Connecticut cities in the form of economic development grants. Bridgeport gets more than $13 million, Hartford $8.6 million, and New Haven will receive $7.7 million. The money's to be used to create enterprise zones, and the cities will run the programs.
The plan to bring a Six Flags amusement park to the Stonington area may be dead or at least on hold, but Connecticut could still end up getting a Six Flags park. If the mayor of East Hartford gets his way, it'll be coming to his town. NightBEAT reporter Dennis House is live in East Hartford with the story. Dennis.
Donna, good evening. This is where the mayor would like the park to go. Rentschler Field, which up until a couple of years ago was used by Pratt & Whitney as its corporate airfield. But many people who live adjacent to this field feel the same way many in North Stonington do, that Six Flags should go somewhere else.
We have all the best.
Noreen Brault has lived next to Rentschler Field for 22 years. She likes having an empty airfield surrounding her home on 3 sides and doesn't want an amusement park.
Oh, it would be awful. It would be terrible.
East Hartford Mayor Robert DiCrescenzo disagrees.
Well, it'd be a tremendous economic boon to our town. It would be something that we could build upon going into the next century.
DiCrescenzo has approached the developers of amusement giant Six Flags to transform the now closed Rentschler Field into a state-of-the-art amusement park, the biggest in New England.
My gut feeling is that we've got to work real hard. We've got the very tough competition in Rhode Island, and also North Stonington is still in the mix, but we're going to be the little engine that could, and we're going to get this done.
DiCrescenzo says East Hartford's location is key because Interstates 91 and 84 are nearby. But some local residents fear such an attraction would crowd their streets.
I'm totally against it. I think the traffic would be horrendous. It wouldn't bring any jobs but menial, low-paying jobs into the area.
But others we spoke with say the park would be good for a community ravaged by years of layoffs at Pratt & Whitney.
If it brings in revenue and brings in jobs, it's, you know, it's worth it, I guess. I think it would be good.
Big companies willing to spend millions of dollars aren't exactly knocking the doors down here in Greater Hartford, and that's why supporters say this park would be good. It would create about 3,000 jobs. Now, Six Flags officials have come here and they've toured Rentschler Field. The mayor tells me they liked it a lot, but the next step is certainly up to them. Opponents, by the way, say they will begin to circulate a petition to fight the park. Donna?
Dennis House live in East Hartford tonight.
Great weather today to be at an amusement park or out at the GHO. This is GHO 97.
Will the weather hold through the weekend? That's the question. Hilton has a first look at Connecticut's most accurate forecast. Good evening, Hilton.
Good evening, Donna. Al, it would be hard to keep it as nice as it is now. Cool tonight, mostly clear, overnight low of 57. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, a high of 81. Your full night beat forecast shortly.
All right, tomorrow morning, the jury is expected to get the case of the woman who's accused of trying to extort $40 million from actor Bill Cosby. And this quote today, there is no exception for fathers in the case of extortion. That comes from an assistant U.S. attorney. In closing arguments, the prosecutor said Autumn Jackson's demand for $40 million in exchange for keeping quiet about her paternity claims still broke the law. In California, closing arguments are set for tomorrow in actor Carol O'Connor's slander trial. The defendant speaking today, blaming drugs for the death of his son Hugh. O'Connor is being sued by Harry Persegian, who was convicted of supplying drugs to his son. He publicly blamed Persegian for Hugh's death, calling him, quote, a partner in murder.
Trying to fix a fire hydrant turns tragic for two water company workers when a trench collapses on top of them. The two drowned after witnesses say a valve blew, sending thousands of gallons of water into the 6-foot-deep trench. Two other workers were able to escape, but 4 others had to be taken from the traumatic accident scene for psychiatric evaluations.
Federal investigators are now at the site of yesterday's deadly gas explosion in Indianapolis. A team from the National Transportation Safety Board will look into the possibility that construction workers punctured a 20-inch gas main with their backhoe, and that was what set off the explosion that killed 1 woman and destroyed 6 homes. Dozens of other homes were damaged.
And their 3-month pilgrimage is now complete. A wagon train of Mormons arriving in Salt Lake City at the same place the first group of Mormon pioneers did 150 years ago today. Some 62 wagons, 60 horseback riders, 24 hand carts, and an estimated 800 people took part. But the long, hot days haven't been without mishaps. Just yesterday, a pair of mules bolted while pulling a wagon down a steep hill. Look at them go. The wagon broke apart and 3 people suffered minor injuries.
That's amazing.
Sure is.
Well, we have a happy ending tonight in the case of a Stanford boy. We showed you his story here on the Health Beat a few weeks ago. We're going to see right now what he has that he didn't have back then.
Also on the Night Beat, a deadly predator has been prowling around India, and many children have become its victims.
A cross-dressing controversy in one state concerns one of its own workers. We'll show you how this turned out.
And monkeying around comes naturally to one guy. You'll see how he got one opportunity. Stay with us. The Night Beat's coming right back.
Channel 3 Eyewitness News. This is Connecticut's news station.